Hey guys, it's Alderbear Art here, and today I'm going to show you how to draw your Minecraft character. There's already a video up on my channel on how to do your Roblox character if you're interested. Here's a quick view of the supplies I'm using. The last video I did digitally, so this one I'm doing traditionally just to show you it really doesn't matter what kind of supplies you have. This was literally done with copy paper and a number 2 pencil. The most important thing you will need is a photo of your character and a pose you'd like to draw. Make sure you don't pull up anybody else's art. You're going to want a photo of an actual human being. We are not art thieves here. You can do the same thing in MS Paint if you don't have a printer, but the point is you're going to take a marker and draw over top of your character model and also the pose you'd like to draw. The point of doing this is we're going to try and figure out what these shapes would look like in that pose. So the simplest way of doing this is to just draw over the model and then draw over the pose. And you have to remember that a Minecraft character is a 3D model. It's not flat 2D shapes. I see so many people who are drawing Minecraft characters in just drawing a basic square, and it doesn't really show any form. If you want to draw art, the best thing to do is try to give it some kind of form, some kind of flow, some kind of shape, because even 2D cartoon art has some kind of emphasis to it. So what I'm doing here is not only am I tracing over the character model, I also drew a ruler to the left of it, and the point is to try and figure out the proportions of the character. There's a lot more tutorials online that go into depth about the ruler and the pros of it, but basically the point is to break it down so your proportions are correct, so you don't draw an arm or a head or something too big or too small. So now I'm going into the thumbnail sketch, which is basically where I try and take these character models and these shapes and I try to fit it into that pose. I try and figure out what these cubes would look like if they were in that pose. You'll notice this is really loose and a really flowy sketch. And the point of this is not only to just figure out what these shapes would look like, but I like to do multiple thumbnails, multiple redrawings of the same thing because it'll make your final result look a lot better because it'll be more flushed out. You can use a ruler for this part, but I just drew out a square because I'm doing this as a profile picture shape. It just makes it easier for editing later so I know where the sides are. Once again, I'm drawing the ruler, but this time on the next sketch, and the point of this is to make sure that I don't get any hair or tops of the hoodie cut off, and I make sure that everything is exactly lined up where I want it to be, so that way everything will fit into the final drawing. The last thing you need is to draw the profile picture, and then turn it out you don't have room to draw on the top of the head. Now you have a couple options. When you're sketching, most people are going to want to draw extremely light, because you're going to have trouble erasing it later when you have a bunch of pencil marks that are really digged into the page. This didn't really matter to me too much because I end up doing multiple resketches of the same drawing, so I actually wanted it really hard so that way I could see through it later because I was going to be tracing over top of it. I actually recommend the second option, just tracing over top of it, because it makes it a lot easier to fix your mistakes later on if you have multiple copies of the same sketch. But if this is all done on your final drawing and you're only using one piece of paper, just make sure you draw really light. Now I do have a light pad which I tend to use for tracing over my art sometimes, but I wanted to show you guys that it really doesn't matter what materials or supplies you have, so I'm doing this with just another sheet of copy paper, and literally I drew hard enough that it would be able to show through the next side as long as I had enough light. I highly, highly, highly recommend redrawing your thing multiple times before you commit to the coloring process. And I wish I had done a second sketch simply because of the fact that I ended up redrawing this for you guys multiple times. And I ended up with 2 full colored artworks in the end just because the second one ended up better than the first. So don't feel bad if you make a bunch of mistakes, and don't feel bad if you have to redo things a lot. That's the problem with art. It takes a lot of practice. So this might be a Minecraft character, but now that I'm adding in details, for the actual pose, I'm drawing in curves, not straight, harsh lines. Now, if you want to go for that style, that's all good. You do you, boo. But because I want to go for a more cartoony and anime look, I'm going with some curvy lines rather than harsh edges on the actual blocky form. And while I'm drawing over it and adding in all these details, I'm still actually drawing outside the lines a little bit and trying to give it a little bit more emphasis, a little bit more flow, I guess? I don't really know what word to use here. But the point is, I don't want to keep everything within the lines of the character model, just because I'm trying to make this look more cartoony and stylized. Hopefully you guys don't have as extremely shaky hands as I do, so you don't have as much of a problem inking, but normally, if you do have shaky hands, one of the best things you can do is to just very, very lightly go over the whole artwork and then go back in and fill in any missed holes or anything, because sometimes you just can't fight it. I don't know about you, but I have Dr. Strange after the accident hands. I know a lot of younger artists tend to crumple up their paper when they're trying to erase because they erase really hard. Instead of trying to erase in a scrubbing motion, make sure you're just trying to do one swipe away from you and keep your hand on the paper at all times. And maybe that was just me, but I used to like always destroy my artworks because I tried to erase way too hard and the paper would get all crumpled. So I am using a Sharpie for inking, and when I do color in, I am going to use a mix of Crayola and also Prismacolor colored pencils. This isn't meant to be a cheap art supply challenge. I just wanted to be able to show you that you can use cheap art supplies. It doesn't really matter what you have on hand, especially because this video is geared towards more younger artists. I know not everybody has expensive supplies. The main reason I ended up using a couple of Prismacolors in the end was because I only have my Crayola skin colored set on me. If I have the full Crayola pack, I would use it, but I don't know where it went, I'm not gonna lie to you, and so I ended up using a couple Prismacolors for no more colorful parts. I did, however, use some Crayola for the skin tone, so please don't hate on me too hard. You could do this whole artwork traditionally, including the background, but I ended up taking a photo of it and editing it on my tablet. You could also use your computer or your phone or whatever you have. But the point of this is I just wanted to make this more aesthetically pleasing to the eye for my profile picture, and also just enhance the image, and you'll see that I kind of like Photoshop it a little bit. I'm using my tablet and MediaBang Paint. You can do the same thing on your phone or IBS Paint or whatever you have. When you're coloring in your artwork, you want to make sure that you're not using straight up pure black to color in all of your shadows. I tend to use like different colors of the same color, like different deeper, darker hues of the same color. So if I'm coloring in like a peach skin, I'll use more of a tan color to color in the shadows, or if I'm coloring in a lilac purple jacket, I'm using a deep purple to color it in. One of the biggest things is you want to make sure you have really good value range in your artwork, and that basically just means make sure you have super light brights and super dark darks, and it'll just give some more contrast in your drawing. When I'm all done coloring this in, I actually go back over with a Sharpie once again, and the point of that is, when I'm coloring in my colored pencil, it kind of messes up the Sharpie a little bit, it kind of dulls out the outlines and the line art, so I go back over and really deepen those blacks. And I also used a jelly roll, which is only like $2, so don't get on me for about that. I used a jelly roll to add in more of the highlights back in. You'll notice when I'm coloring as well, I'm coloring in circles. Well, maybe it's a little hard to tell because I'm in fast mode on this video, but I'm coloring in circles, and there's a bunch of tutorials online on how to use colored pencils better, so hopefully you guys can check out those videos when you're done with this one. But I also used a white colored pencil in order to blend in the colors a little bit more and add in some of the highlights back in. Colored pencils take a really long time to color in with. You have to do so many layers and stuff to it. It just takes forever. They're even harder to use, honestly, when you have like Crayola colored pencils, because the cheaper brand pencils, even though they work, don't get me wrong, they work very well, but the problem is they are made out of more wax than pigment, so it lays down differently, and you have to like really dig that pencil into the paper in order to get it to show through. I always add in extra highlights and extra blushies to all of my cartoon artworks. Yes, even Minecraft ones, so don't hate on me. Make sure you guys don't forget to date and also sign your artwork as well. So now we're getting towards the end of the coloring process. I'm going to take this photo, and then I'm just going to take that and put it into MediaBang Paint, and I'm going to touch it up and really white out like the background, and that way I can edit it later. I really don't know how long this artwork took me. Normally, coloring takes an hour or two at bare minimum, and considering this was actually a kind of big artwork I did, just for the size of paper I used, it probably took me a couple hours to say the least. So here I'm taking a white airbrush and filling in the background because the background was kind of like a darker, weird color, and I'm going to want to add in colors on top of it later, so I really needed a white base to work with. And then I went back through and I brightened up the image a little bit, added a little bit more saturation to it, and then you'll notice that I'm taking a black wet watercolor brush and I'm going to go back over the line art just to touch up the image a little bit more, because when I took the photo and added in the airbrush, it kind of whitened out some of my outline a little bit, so I went ahead and fixed that. You'll also notice me using the blur tool here, and I'm just kind of touching up some of the colored pencil where I didn't really get into all the nooks and crevices of the paper, and some of the paper still shone through on top of the colors, so I went ahead and fixed that. You'll probably see on the right side of this video here that that's the old drawing that's also on the same file, which was like the full colored artwork I did that I really messed up a lot. I messed up some of the line art, and I put in the wrong color of the eyes and all that, and it was honestly just too much to edit. I didn't like the drawing as a whole, so here's the redone version. So the app I'm about to use to edit is PixArt. To touch up this image, I used Media Bang Paint that you guys see here, but now I'm loading in PixArt. So here I'm going to use FX, which is literally just a thing you can use to add filters over top of, and I kind of like added in some HDR and some Dodger to just kind of even out the colors a little bit. And then I used a bunch of stickers, and I love using like galaxy sparkles and stuff to just make the artwork look a little bit more cute. PixArt and Media Bang Paint are both free to use, so I really hope you guys try them out, because they're really awesome. I use them for all of my editing, and it just is so much easier than trying to upload the photos onto my computer to edit. You'll also notice I pull up a sticker, which is kind of like a frame-like thing you'll notice here in a minute, and I just threw that in the background as well, just to like kind of frame out the photo a little bit more. So I hope this tutorial was helpful for you guys. I'm about to show the final image here in a second. And if this video was helpful, I hope you guys like and subscribe for more videos, and don't forget to check out the Roblox tutorial on my channel as well.